so much. With us now, Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida. Congressman, I know that sadly this is not the first, nor it will be the last school shooting that you are being asked to react to, but what is your reaction to what happened today?
No, hi, Jake. It's good to be with you. I'm in Parkland right now. I'm a mile from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where I graduated from. I saw you had Max Schachter on, one of the parents who lost their kid in that building. I shouldn't know Max. And now there are families who join an exclusive club that they've been drafted into involuntarily. And so, you know, it's more of the same. You know, we're going to find out, obviously, more about the shooter. We're going to find out what worked from a school safety perspective, what didn't work. It's good to see that the SROs here engaged. In Parkland, the SRO did not. And we'll continue to work on school safety in states where that seems to be doing the most work, where Congress is failing. But this is just heartbreaking. This has been something that one political party has just accepted as part of the political reality in this country in order to have freedom. Florida rejected that. Red state Florida, Republican Florida rejected that. It was my bill where we raised the age to buy a gun to 21. We instituted red flag laws, which have been used 19,000 times in the state of Florida in the last 6 years. And we have 3-day waiting periods. It doesn't mean we're going to stop everything, but it's about mitigation. It's about mitigating the damage if an individual wants to throw their life away and walk into a school.
Yeah, we did a piece, a former CNN correspondent who was based in Florida named Leila Santiago did a piece looking at the effect of the red flag law and interviewed a Republican county sheriff, a gun owner, I believe, who talked about how great that law has been in terms of preventing not only homicides, but suicides. And this is, as you note, something that was passed in the wake of the horrific shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. This law that I think it was Governor Scott at the time, signed into law. It expanded background checks. It banned bump stocks. It added a 3-day waiting period to purchase a handgun. It raised the age limit for purchasing a long gun to 21. That was your provision of it. But even though Rick Scott signed that as governor of Florida, he opposed it as a senator from Florida. Why do you think it was easier for Republicans in red Florida to support these kinds of gun reforms than it is for Republicans in the U.S. Senate?
Well, I mean, what happened in Florida in a 3-year period is we had Pulse, we had the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting, and then we had Parkland. 3 years in a row. Florida had become a center almost for this. And so you saw Republicans in the state house and the state senate, along with Governor Rick Scott. In fact, it was a majority of Republicans who passed that law. It would have to be because they control both houses. Why can they do it at the state level? Well, I think they decided to show leadership. We had the strongest NRA lobbyist here in Florida opposing that, Marianne Hammer. Marianne Hammer was the NRA president nationally. She's the one who wrote Stand Your Ground here in Florida, made Florida a petri dish. But I think Republicans decided it was enough. And that doesn't mean they weren't against the Second Amendment. It means they were trying to find balance. There's no protests in Florida for people who can't buy a gun here at all, zero. And so we can find a balance, but we don't have that leadership in Washington because the system is set up not to find compromise, not to find these things. I mean, my colleagues across the aisle, we're going back to Washington next week. What are we doing? We're going to subpoena Tim Walz in the Education Committee. We're sending the vice presidential candidate a subpoena. And then in the very same day, my colleagues want to talk to us about the weaponization of government. So the 118th Congress isn't serious about handling things for the American people, lowering costs, keeping people safe in their communities. It's going to take a new Congress to try to lead on these issues. And while we don't know the specifics here, right, each case is slightly different, but there's a similar current that runs through all of them. And if we find out more details, Similar to the Michigan case, this is a 14-year-old, obviously didn't buy that gun legally on their own. And so we'll have to find out what the parents knew or didn't know. Just like the shooter that almost killed former President Trump a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, the Venn diagram of where the solution is pretty simple. You have a circle that represents the prevalence of guns in this country. You have a circle that represents mental health issues. Most people with mental health issues are not dangerous at all. Most guns are not going to be misused, but then where there is this overlap, keeping guns out of the hands of these people who have serious troubles, that's where Congress needs to focus. And I'm glad that there has been some focus. It would be nice if there were more. Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida, thanks so much for your time. We're getting more accounts